Budget 2020 is just 2 days away, and right now economic issues are probably not making it to the top of your timelines or the news you are watching, but it's crucial. This budget is an opportunity to reset and a chance that cannot be squandered. The slowdown is no longer a subject that is restricted to boardrooms in between economists. The Aam Aadmi is feeling the pinch and talking about it. So before the big budget, let's get a sense of how the slowdown has impacted the Aam Aadmi. Today, we bring to you an exclusive pre-budget poll conducted by C-Voter. The budget tracker has interesting insights and shows how price rise or inflation has become a bigger issue now than it was ever in the 6 years of the Modi government. 72% of respondents, as per the latest tracker, say inflation has been unchecked and prices have gone up. The mood on incomes is also despondent, with nearly 44% respondents saying while incomes have remained the same, expenses have increased in the last 1 year. There are worries for the government on the economic performance front as well. The percentage of respondents that feel the performance of the government has been worse than expected has been steadily increasing since 2017. Is the government listening? And can this budget change the mood? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Yashwant Deshmukh, founder-editor of C-Voter International. We're also speaking with Gopal Krishna Agarwal of the BJP, Sunil Alagh, as well as Madhavan Narayanan. Welcome to all of you and thank you for speaking with us. Yashwant, why don't you take us through the budget tracker first? Give us details of how large the sample size is and what really you've captured in this.
Well, Tamanna, in any case, the C-Voter tracker is done actually on a daily basis, all 365 days a year, nationwide. And there are many items even in this budget tracker which are actually asked every day. But this particular budget tracker, out of which 9 items, most of them are the ones which we have been asking the respondents before the union budget. We have a timeline for almost about 10 years, a decade-long timeline for most of the questions. And what I can tell, I mean, with the timeline that is available for your viewers to see as well on the screen, that the numbers are not actually very encouraging. For the first time, when we are tracking and the numbers starting with 2010, 11, 12 and right before the 2014 general elections, the worries about inflation, the worries about the rising costs, the worries about the income not matching really their expenditure, and worries about how a general common man is feeling the pinch on how about to go with their life, was high, really high, around between 2010 to 2013 period. And all of a sudden, that dropped after Mr. Modi comes to power in 2014. And since then, it has started going up slightly a bit again. It was not that alarming till last year, but I guess that this year's tracker is reaching somewhere in the range of 2013-2014 numbers, and that should be alarming. This is a nationwide survey. Please remember, every year we talk to more than 100,000 respondents in more than 10 languages, 11 languages to be precise, covering all the districts in all the states. So it can be as representative as it can get. This week's tracker has got approximately 4,000 samples, which is the updated number at this point of time.
Okay.
And the things which is the trends which are there to see are worth pondering over.
Okay, Yashwant, just one more question, because we'll pull up those numbers again, and let's pull up the first one, which talks about the experience of inflation and of rising prices. The 2020 figures are, of course, the highest. But my question really is that this is just for the month of Jan. How representative is it? Can you explain that to us?
No, it's just a month for Jan which you are on your screen. But the thing is that it is not that it is asked only in Jan. It has been asked almost every day throughout 2019 as well. And you remember during the course of election also we did mention that when the headlines were coming out for the lack of jobs or unemployment being an issue, as early as December 2015 itself, unemployment had become the top of the mind issue. But somehow that was not coming out as big alarming because the inflation was checked. I mean, we have to give credit to Modi government that at least in the first 4 years of the last 6 year, 5 years, 6 years tenure, the inflation was pretty much in control. It is only in the last 1 year that this issue of inflation has kind of come up really big time. It wasn't there for the last almost 5 years. I mean,
Right.
this is something in 2019. You can say that sometime mid 2019 it has started surfacing, and right now it is reaching to some troublesome areas.
Okay, let me get a quick response from Gopal Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, we're speaking, of course, just a couple of days before the budget, and price rise and inflation is something that the Modi government has focused on. Vegetable prices have contributed to inflation, so have climbing crude prices. But even if you look at the overall respondents on economic performance, that has also shown that there are more and more people unhappy with the government's economic performance. Is this the big challenge right now?
No, economy is always, Tamanna, is a challenge for everybody. It was a challenge in 1947, it was in 1991, it was in 2000, it was a challenge in 2014, and still there are certain challenges, and there will be challenges in the future also.
Yeah.
It is the thing is that how do you understand those challenges and what you are doing
No,
to
but
meet
Mr.
those
Agarwal,
challenges.
I'm sorry.
So
I will give
that's
you
important.
complete time
If
to
the
respond.
economy,
But we are not speaking in 1947 or in the 2000s or in the 1990s. We are speaking today, 2 days before the first union budget of 2020.
we will speak
Let's
same in
talk about today.
2024. So there are challenges. We know consumer demand is a challenge, but I don't think inflation is a challenge at this point of time. Therefore, there may be concern that the inflation should not rise, but controlling inflation is not a challenge at this moment. The only challenge at this moment, one of the important challenges, employment and the consumer demand. That's the most thing, private capital formation. These three are the important challenges, and government has very well a roadmap to meet those challenges. And whether it will be tackled in the budget or before also, I can very well assure everybody that government knows these challenges and is planning as a plan to meet those challenges. A lot of things will come in the budget as a policy statement or some tweaking of some of the issues. But there has to meet these important challenges, there has to be a roadmap of 3 to 4 years, and we move that path. It doesn't mean that these challenges will be met after 4 years only. If I say that there is a roadmap of 4 years, that doesn't mean that only after 4 years.
No, I understand roadmap.
We will start meeting.
Okay, let me focus on a couple of crucial things. Let me focus on a couple of crucial points over here which emerged from the survey. That more people feel that their incomes are not rising, but their expenses are. And remember, this is as Aam Aadmi survey as it can get. So it's not a poll among CEOs or economists. And Yashwant has explained
Tamanna,
how representative it is. So incomes are not rising, expenses are. So it is relative to that as well. Inflation has not been a challenge so far, but it is now beginning to be. The RBI says that as well. It's got its eye on inflation. The question is, Madhavan Narayanan, and I think the most important one, is the assessment of the economic performance of this government and what people are saying about that. What can be done and what will the government need to do to change that perception that they're lagging on the economic front?
I think apart from the survey which captures the mood, there are two ways of looking at it. One is to say inflation has been benign and therefore there is nothing for the government to worry about, and because there is also nothing by way of major protests against inflation, although there have been murmurs on onion prices and all. The fact is that politically speaking, we have been seeing more demonstrations against citizenship law or against corruption, or in the case of farmers before elections last year. So politically the government seems to be not too worried, but this is not a real picture, because there is an eerie calm around this thing, because there is something like a tiger by the tail situation where you have an economy of 1.25 billion people, in which both inflation is creeping up again. It's not galloping inflation, but it's creeping inflation, and there is no demand, and there is real threat of unemployment growing.
Yeah.
So this is where the government has to be very careful. And for, I just sketched out the scenario so that you can see where the challenges really lie. Let me also mention one more figure, which is the fiscal deficit, which is seemingly in control, but even the former finance secretary is talking about the real fiscal deficit being 5.5% because of off-budget issues, including Food Corporation of India. I mentioned this specially because Food Corporation is responsible for managing food subsidies, and I've just read a Reuters report that they are demanding 2 lakh crore more or something. They have been borrowing big time in market, like $2 billion equivalent. What does this all lead to? Leads to a situation where the government on the one hand has to ramp up spending, on the other hand manage food subsidies, and if it's supposed to control the subsidies, it means the inflation which has been hidden so far becomes more visible.
Yeah.
So it's a tiger by the tail situation for
All
the
right,
government.
you mentioned that.
It's
You
not
mentioned
going to
that.
be an
Let's keep
easy
all our
budget,
responses
and
brief.
only,
Sunil Alagh, you will get
let
one
me
long
complete,
answer because
let me
everyone got a
complete
long
one.
opening comment. But from here on, please keep your responses brief. Remember, viewers have short attention spans. Let's stick to the point and get a lot of points covered. Yes, Mr. Sunil Alagh. What do you think is the big message? I'm sorry, Madhavan, I'll come back to you, I promise. What is the big message that needs to be taken away from some of the figures that we've presented over here? And the key 2 or 3 highlights is that more people feel that mehengai is pinching them. Mehengai is a tough word politically. The people who perhaps have been polled don't care what the CPI, WPI are. They care about how much money is going out of their pocket and what their incomes are.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, I've said it from July onwards, inflation is not the issue. It's just something which surfaces because you have not taken care of the demand side at all in the previous budget. People don't have the money. What have you done for us? So when they don't have the money, there is no demand, and therefore the perception is that inflation is going up. It's gone up only in January. If you look at inflation, it's remained within 4 to 5%. All along, 3, 4, 5, all along, and except the last 1.5 months. So inflation is not the issue. The question is there is a lack of demand because people don't have the money. Once they don't have the money, then all these issues will come up. So I've always said that too much of we've swung towards the supply side. We've given a lot to industry. We've given a lot to everybody else to get the industry up, but we haven't given money into the hands of the consumer, which is what I've been screaming about right from July, that we have to do it. And if they don't do it now, first and foremost, the budget itself has little meaning now because they just announce policies in the budget and maybe 1 or 2 things will come up. It'll have to be a continuous process. So if you ask me, there are 3 things. 1, government has to step up expenditure on infrastructure to create more employment. Second is they have to give more money into the hands of the consumers. Once they get more money, then all these issues will be taken care of. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you've also got the small scale guys who are begging for liquidity. And these are the 3 issues that the government has to face. And this time around, I do not think fiscal deficit, even if it goes up to 5%, it doesn't make a difference. The obsession of the government with fiscal deficit and the obsession with RBI on inflation is important in a developing economy, in a developing economy, even if inflation goes up to 6 to 7%, and I'm not recommending runaway inflation, but that shows the economy is developing. But if consumers don't have the money, forget it.
No, consumers don't have the money, but it depends on what is getting expensive. It depends on what is getting expensive. See the latest inflation numbers. It's all coming from the food basket.
Tamanna, exactly.
Yes, Yashwant, very quickly.
Exactly, Tamanna. And I was going to say that what I always love about your program, it's always you have got experts who top to bottom approach, and also these kind of numbers which we are throwing from the bottoms up approach on how the public at large, the consumer at large, or the voters at large are looking at the things. There are good, bad and ugly. I mean, I have three quick points for all of them. Remember, in 2014, when there was a widespread agitation against UPA, there are three things on the people's concern which were they are putting in the red zone that okay, these are absolutely problematic. Number one was corruption, number two inflation, number three was the sense of national security. Now obviously the Modi government is still scoring very high as far as tackling corruption concerned. They don't get any bad marks for that. As far as national security is concerned, their image and their numbers satisfaction ratings are very high. On the issue of inflation, for the 5 years, 4.5 years, it was nowhere having a problem. Yes, there was a problem of unemployment.
Right.
And as Mr. Alagh just mentioned, since the last 6 months, he has been saying that, the problem is of
Tamanna.
spending, having something in hand. Now, the thing is, in overall, when you look at it, there is an eerie silence. There is an eerie silence only because there are way too many emotive issues around for
Yeah.
people to react to rather than
I
react to
started
the
by saying,
economic issues at this
today,
point of
if
time.
today
But
on your
at the end of
timelines,
the
on your
day-
headlines,
Yeah.
you're possibly not consuming much economic news, but you need to. It's important. It matters to people. It's what really matters. Gopal Agarwal, that's another question. Why is your government so focused on everything else but the economic issues? You've told us there are challenges. We will meet those challenges. We have a roadmap. We will follow that
No,
roadmap. That's essentially what you've told me so far. But
Tamanna, you asked,
yeah, but to today say that
Tamanna, you
inflation
said
doesn't
short
matter, it
answers.
matters to
I'll
the
be
poor
brief,
Indian.
and others also should. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, inflation matters, but inflation is not concern at this point of time. Inflation, if it is 8% or 9% or 10%, it definitely matters. So I'm telling, at this point of time, inflation is not a concern for the economic policies. The second thing is that Alagh Saab said that government is obsessed with fiscal deficit. No, it is not obsessed. Why we are announcing 105 lakh crores of investment plan over next 5 years on infrastructure pipelines? And neither we are talking about reducing any expenditure on the schemes which have created more liquidity in the rural and the lower strata of the population. So our idea is very clear. There has to be a liquidity into the lower strata of the population. Schemes like PM Kisan and Manrega and those affordable housing, this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Ayushman, they are doing good. And Ujjwala, those will definitely give more liquidity to the lower strata. Agriculture and food processing in the rural areas require more liquidity. Credit line to NBFC and the retail financing company is in our cards. So we are not obsessed with either this fiscal deficit target, only figures being calling
Well,
them
global
sacrosanct,
economists
or we
will
are
be
not obsessed with
shuddering right now
inflation,
to hear
etc.
you.
It's not a concern.
We don't care about fiscal deficit targets.
No,
Inflation we'll think about
let
when it
them
reaches
shudder.
8-9%.
No, it is No, I'm not telling that. They may shut up. The issue is how do you tackle the economic problem of the current challenges? How do you meet them? And when everybody is agreeing that consumer need more liquidity, so that has to be provided.
Yes.
If the
But
rural
how?
economy needs
I
more
want to
support,
come
that
to
has
this.
be
Everyone keeps
provided.
talking
If the
about this.
infrastructure requires more.
For the last 3 months.
Give me 20 seconds
Yes.
more. I'm
Okay.
telling you how.
Okay.
Now, give me 20 seconds, Tamanna, 20 more seconds. The issue is we have to come out with alternative resource generation other than taxation. Either monetization of the government assets or disinvestment or going to the new instruments of bond market, etc. That is the way we will generate the resources, without going for more increase in taxation, etc. So,
Yeah, but you can't increase your
the
borrowings.
with the
You
constraint,
can't
the government
increase
will move
your
ahead in those
borrowings.
directions.
Sure, you can't increase your borrowings, beyond a point.
No,
And,
but private capital
the fact
formation,
is that everyone does care about the fiscal
private
deficit.
capital formation can
Okay.
come through bond market development, primary and secondary market.
Okay. Who wants to go in? Come,
Primary and
Madhavan
secondary
Narayanan.
market,
Madhavan
bond
Narayanan.
development market
Is
can help
there a
private
plan, and
capital
what is the
formation.
plan that needs to come through? Everyone says that find ways to put more money in the hands of people. But it's not as easy as that, right? You're not going to give away wads of cash because you don't know where it's going to be spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let let me say, we are sounding like a bunch of diagnosticians pretending to be doctors. We have the diagnosis. What we are looking for is a cure. So let's look at what are the possible cures. Mr. Agarwal listed some very good programs to put money in the hands of the poorer sections, but all we have so far is an announcement from the government of 102 lakh crore for infrastructure, which is not the same thing as putting money in the hands of the poorer sections of the people. I'm afraid there might be an asymmetry in the demand creation going forward unless there is a magic rabbit out of the hat. If the only sensible hypothesis I've come across in the past week discussing the budget is, let's say, something like a wealth tax for the super rich or an estate duty. Otherwise, in an economy that already lacks demand, how can you monetize by selling off assets? We are already sitting on the bank on a bank bubble, an IBC legacy issue of a bankruptcy court, which means that people are not carrying cash that can be easily deployed. And therefore, this has got to be an artwork of sorts in this budget in which, and you rightly said, Tamanna, that the world will be watching if there is a fiscal deficit issue.
Yeah,
so if you're going to walk the tightrope between fiscal deficit, demand and inflation, it clearly means that what Sunil Alagh said is the best option. Opt for a slightly higher inflation band. Of 6 to 7% instead of the 4 to 6 that we've been talking about.
We're already
and
at
use
7%,
that elbow room to alter
Everyone's
the
talking about inflation as if it's not arrived yet.
That's only for 1 month, Tamanna. That's only for 1 month.
No,
Yeah,
but
but
look
please
at
do
the,
not
look
talk
at
about
the
1 month
graph. It's
inflation rate.
consistently
That is for
rising.
only
It's
fruits
consistently
and
rising.
vegetables.
The fact is that inflation
It
is
is
at
foods and
7% for the
vegetables.
last month.
Fruits and
It might go
vegetables,
away,
short term.
but it is there. So let's not pretend it's not there. It's not an issue, and
yeah,
it is
yeah.
coming from food
Tamanna,
inflation.
I think Sunil.
It's not pretending
it
you
will
want to
go
take for
away.
the full year,
Sunil has a
Tamanna. You
point
can't
there.
take for 1 month and aggregate it for the year.
Yes, but I'm saying that the RBI's next
Absolutely.
move will also depend on
There's
these
enough,
figures.
Tamanna. You're just taking 1 month inflation and aggregating for the year.
No, I'm
and
not
that's
how
wrong.
can I aggregate
That's
in the
very
beginning
wrong,
of the...
Tamanna, on
no,
your
no,
part.
no. I'm not
You take 1
aggregating
month
for the year. The
inflation and
data is
aggregate
out
it for
there.
the year.
Sunil Alagh, you are saying inflation is not an issue. Gopal Krishna Agarwal is saying that
Yeah,
when
it's only
at 8, 9,
7%
10%,
in January.
we'll see. I'm saying
Where
we're
was
at
it in
7%
April?
for the last
What was
month.
inflation in
Let
May,
us
June,
at
July?
least see
What
where we
data
are.
are you
Anyway, I don't
talking
know why
about?
everyone's screaming. This is an
What
economic
data
debate.
are you talking about?
Lest people
Look
get
at the
confused.
data,
They're watching
Tamanna.
something else.
Please
Let's
look
all
at the
calm down.
data
1 minute.
before you speak.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Let's all calm down. Lest people get confused.
We can calm down,
This
but
is an
Tamanna,
economic
you must
debate.
place the
Mr.
facts
Alagh, you
correctly.
more than anyone. Please calm down. Okay,
Don't
Yashwant
mislead
Deshmukh.
the people, Tamanna.
Yashwant Deshmukh, let me come to
No, you
your
are
big
misleading the
takeaway.
people
I will
by
come
saying
to you, Mr.
inflation
Alagh.
is
Please calm
7%
down,
for the
otherwise I'll have to
year.
mute you. Yes, Mr. Yashwant Deshmukh, let me come to the big takeaway that you have seen, because you were saying that this tracker happens on a regular basis. It happens before the budget. What do you think people want to see? And the fact is that for the Aam Aadmi, the budget is usually about whether there's a cut in taxes, if they are in those brackets. And it used to be about what became expensive and what didn't. What really would be required from the government as a big political message to tackle the story of the slowdown, which is now percolated through all the layers?
The question of liquidity. I mean, absolutely, how much money people have in their hand. The more money they are left to spend, the better it has to be. I understand. You see, I am not an economist, but yeah, I am the one who is probably coming up as the sentiment of the bottom of the pyramid, which I am putting across. Let's not forget that the two biggest of the mass chunks in India who have voted decisively for Mr. Modi. One is the females of this country, and another the youth of this country, particularly the first-time voters and the real young ones below the age of 35. I guess these are the two major blocks. One has been supporting him in aspiration. Another one has been supporting because better quality of life, which Mr. Modi has generated through various schemes, starting from Ujjwala to right up to other schemes, which another guest of ours just pointed out. What I am simply trying to say, if you are not listening voices of protest, if you are not listening murmurs around this at this point of time, it is purely and only because of the trustworthiness of brand Modi. People still trust Mr. Modi and his brand that he is doing something to deliver. But that does not mean that does not mean that we stop reading the signings or signs of danger. Signs, public doesn't understand the big technical jargons of economics.
Yeah.
All the things which experts talk about, the housewives in their kitchen, they do not understand that. The youth doesn't understand that. Youth wants a better future, better employability, good scope of employment, and the housewives need to know
Right,
how they
absolutely.
are running their kitchen. A good balance of this is what majority of the welfare scheme
Well, the
is
fact-
about.
yeah.
This is what I understand, and on the numbers, there are signs of worries. There are critical. I mean, you can see that there are fault lines now. They are appearing on the numbers. So, I mean, I cannot put these numbers under the carpet and say because
No, there is no carpet,
everything-
and I'm sure
I don't know if
that
they
the
feel
powers
it
that
is
be
right.
are also aware.
I don't think everything is
I'm sure
right.
that the powers that be are also aware that inflation is a number to be watched, and we have to see its trends and patterns over the next few months to come. Increasing incomes is key, not just more number of jobs, but quality of income is key. And these are some of the key things that the Aam Aadmi wants. Any government which has been elected with an overwhelming majority by the Aam Aadmi will have to deliver. We'll wait and watch and see what comes out in the budget to this effect. I want to thank all of you all for joining us on the show this evening. Just 2 days to go. Remember, over the last few days on this show, you've seen a variety of voices and views, whether it's the millennial, whether it's corporate India, top economists, consumption experts. We've tried to get you every kind of viewpoint. There's a lot more coming up every day at 9 p.m. So I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching.